There is a perfect window right now to buy the dip on specific players in Dynasty Fantasy Football. And today we're going to spend time identifying 6 of those players and why you should be targeting them right now. Fellas, I love this window before the Super Bowl. And I'll say like the window ends about 3 weeks before free agency begins, where people are just kind of tuned out to the free agency scene, and especially in dynasty formats where you can capitalize on dips in values for specific players. And Breece Hall is the epitome of one of these players where it seems like he's going to be set to hit free agency. Maybe the Jets re-sign him, TBD, but this is a great window to attack the ambiguity for Breece Hall.
Yeah, I got a big feeling the Jets don't re-sign him. He wanted out at the trade deadline. They've done nothing to improve the team so far, so I got a feeling Breece Hall is ready to be free of the Jets, and I know I am very ready for him to be free of the New York Jets. And I know what you're thinking. Why am I going to draft a 25-year-old running back looking for a second contract who only has one top 15 finish and only one season over 1,000 yards? Because he played for the New York Jets. That's the biggest reason. I mean, and he no longer plays there. This is a guy who, coming off an ACL tear, was the running back 4 overall in half PPR formats, had 223 carries, 76 receptions, and he was running back 4 despite only having 9 total touchdowns. Okay, he is a guy who can put up that Saquon in New York type season. He's that guy who can have that Alvin Kamara-esque season. That's his skill set, and that's what translates for fantasy football. So that's what gets me excited about Breece Hall. And now looking for a new contract, you got to imagine he's hopefully finally getting healthy after, just being banged around on the Jets for so long. But we have teams like the Chiefs, the Bears potentially, depending on what they do with DeAndre Swift, Cowboys, Commanders, Vikings. I mean, even the Titans and Texans looking for a running back. Breece Hall is going to find a starting role somewhere. And I think as long as he has a somewhat competent offensive line, so as long as he's not on the Texans, essentially, he's going to be very, very good for fantasy football because of the skill set that he has. So it's me betting on he's going to get a contract. Someone's going to pay him a good amount of money for a running back, right? I mean, we can talk about wide receiver contracts for running back contracts all we want, but they're going to pay him a pretty good amount of money, and he's going to get in a starting role somewhere else to really show off that skill set, right? Teams know who he is at this point in his career. Whoever is going to sign him to that contract is going to use him to the best of his abilities.
And we have a recent blueprint for how this works for extremely talented running backs in the NFL. All you have to do is go back and look at Josh Jacobs at the Green Bay Packers. And you're like, man, he had the RB2 season in Vegas just a few years back, but followed that up with an absolute stinker of a season. People are like, well, are we interested if he actually goes to a new team? Turns out if he lands on a very good NFL team, Josh Jacobs is a very good football player who can thrive in a positive NFL setting, Ty. The problem is we can look at the teams for Breece Hall and we can dream in where he lands, but I also don't want to ignore the ambiguity of like, it could be the Houston Texans that he ends up on. And even that, like, I might not even be as scared of the Houston Texans situation because like their offensive line, the offensive line was improving over the back half of the season too. Yeah. Like, I don't want to like just dump on their offensive line when we've watched the games. Their offensive line did play better over the back half of the season, much better than we expected. But where are you at, Ty? Are you willing to take the plunge on Breece Hall here, given the ambiguity?
Yes, just because I think any play caller is better than Frank Reich.
Oh man, let's not even talk about the overhaul of the Jets staff. I mean, that's another reason why I don't think they bring Breece Hall back. If Aaron Glenn's going to overturn his whole staff, why are you bringing back roster pieces that
don't want to be there?
You're not entirely fitting round pegs and square holes, but it seems like the goal is to try and find some more square pegs. And Breece Hall doesn't appear to be part of that equation, but continue, Ty. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like New York, we're going from square pegs to triangle pegs when, like you said, we're trying to fight square pegs and somehow it's supposed to work out. But Breece Hall is a weird one to me because you look at his value over a Keep Trade Cut. Again, it's a crowdsourced data information site that you can use for Dynasty. Yep. He's the running back 12 still over on Keep Trade Cut. And I feel like if you ask your league mates what they see Breece Hall as, I don't think they would see him as the running back 12.
I would agree.
So again, this is where I think that this is like you said, this is the window to buy, because if you do think that Breece Hall, no matter where he goes, even if it is to a Houston with a play caller like Nick Caley or some situation similar to that where it's not exactly a proven system just yet or a proven play caller, I guarantee you it's going to be slightly better because the skill set that Breece Hall brings to an offense is worth utilizing. The Jets tried to do so, but they just couldn't because they just didn't have the system for it. Mm-hmm. So I feel like any place is going to be better than the Jets. So running back 12, I wouldn't get so caught up in that. I don't think people in your league are going to see it the same way. And they see Breece Hall as kind of a guy on the way out just because they're like, he's a Jets player. I don't really care about what just happened. I just don't know what it's going to be like. This is the window to buy right now.
The one thing I do want to do before we move on to is I don't want to just pretend to say oh, Breece Hall can move on from the Jets to a better team. I think we all agree that 99% of teams in the NFL are probably going to be better operated than the New York Jets. But Cam, you mentioned before we hit the record button, you had listed out the different, at least semi-realistic possibilities for Breece Hall to land. Do you want to just read those off just to make sure we provide real context of the worst teams for him to land on, but then also what we're salivating over, where we're salivating over him landing to?
Yeah, I mean, some of the teams, Chiefs, like I said, Bears are one I think is a realistic possibility. But again, DeAndre Swift played really good. They went far. Bears fans are probably like, heck no, we're not cutting him. I understand if it's not the Bears. Titans, Texans, Cowboys, Commanders, Vikings. And I mean, maybe Cardinals could be another one. But yeah, that's kind of the main list I have right now. Broncos could be another one as well.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, none of those teams you listed would make me go, "Ugh." It would actually make me probably feel a little bit better that you're not going to be losing out on Breece Hall to any extent. Ty, I'm going to come right back to you because we're going to pivot to a player who is only 3 spots lower than Breece Hall over on Keep Trade Cut. Ladd McConkey, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm a little bit worried the recent news of Mike McDaniel as offensive coordinator is going to steam his value up even more towards a bounce back season, but the process here makes 100% sense. So I support the notion of, yes, please go buy Ladd McConkey while you still can.
Yes, the window is shutting pretty quickly, or at least it will coming soon because, like you said, the Mike McDaniel hire and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to be honest. I was high on the Chargers offense coming into last year because I thought year 2 under Greg Roman, they made some improvements on the offensive line. Hey, it's go time. And they brought in Omari and Hampton. It's go time. Just didn't work out this way, or it didn't work out that way. And there's going to be plenty of film review from me this offseason on the Chargers. And I think I know what the reason is. It's probably because the offensive line just didn't stay healthy, but maybe there's more to it than that. But that's the number one suspicion that I have right now for the Chargers. And it led to a pretty disappointing sophomore year for Ladd, right? He finished behind Keenan Allen in receptions and in targets. So Cam, there's your victory lap on that one.
Yes, sir.
And Ladd was he was 56th in yards per route run of 76 receivers with 50 plus targets. Not great. But I don't want to say I'm completely throwing out last year. I'm completely throwing it out, but all I'm doing is looking forward here for the Chargers, right? Again, the Mike McDaniel factor here. We're getting Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt back, which is instantly going to improve that offensive line, gives Justin Herbert some time. It lets routes develop downfield because of the time in the pocket there, which Ladd McConkey made the most of in his rookie year. That's what gave him all the hype and the value going into 2025. The route participation in 2024 was at 86%. That was mainly in the slot. This year, it was still mainly in the slot. but it was up over 90%. And he was actually top 10 in total routes run of all wide receivers this year. So he's staying on the field, which is a great sight to see. He still led the team in yards. So right now over in Keep Trade Cut, wide receiver 16, wide receiver 17, depending if you flip between Superflex and non-Superflex. But honestly, the reason why I think Ladd's a buy is because there's a path for Ladd to re-enter that top 12 conversation. You look at some of the receivers ahead of him. You got Nico Collins, you got Rashee Rice, you got Garrett Wilson, you got Chris Olave. They're all ahead of him. They're all a year older than Ladd McConkey. And right now, I think those offenses have just slightly more question marks than the Chargers do at this moment. So Ladd could very easily take advantage, at least for 2026. It's a different story 2-3 years from now, but at least for 2026, Ladd McConkey could very well re-enter that top 12 conversation because of what this Chargers offense should be in 2026.
It's literally night and day what Joe Wall did for this offense, the protection that he offered. And then once the rest of the line collapsed around him, it was absolutely game over. And so you're going to get this offensive line back and healthy. You're also going to get who I think is the leading candidate to sign Tyler Linderbaum this offseason to shore up the guard center combo of your offensive line as well. If you get him in the middle of your offensive line, you have your two stud tackles on the outside. This is an offensive line that's going to be so much better, so much more creative under Mike McDaniel. But I think, Cameron, what I really like the most about Ladd McConkey going into next season is something that I talked about at the end of the redraft season in our lessons learned of let's not throw in the towels on these third, fourth year wide receivers. We saw how dominant they were this season. And to me, just because Ladd had a down sophomore season, we know he's still talented. Let's get the situation right. As of right now, the Chargers are doing whatever they can to get their offensive passing game right. And that's only going to be a benefit to Ladd McConkey, especially if your boy Keenan Allen is unfortunately potentially not going to be in the seat next year.
Hopefully Keenan Allen retires, walks into the sunset, maybe gets a Hall of Fame nod. I know he probably won't. He probably won't, but he will in my heart. He will in my heart. But let's, like Tyson, let's go through with Keenan Allen or with Ladd McConkey. Does he have a top probably 5-6 quarterback in the NFL, 7 quarterback in the NFL? Yes.
Yeah.
Does he have, when healthy, one of the best tackle pairings in the NFL? Yes. Does he have an offensive coordinator who's produced an offense with Tua Tagovailoa that had a 1,700-yard receiver and a 1,200-yard receiver? Yes. Is Ladd McConkey really good at football? Yes. That sounds like a recipe for success. I'm going to bet on that 10 times out of 10. To me, it's like Brian Thomas Jr., except, right, because I'm betting again on Brian Thomas Jr.
Sure.
and the talent and Liam Cohen's system and everything going on, except you don't have Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington looking awesome, Travis Hunter mixing in. It's him and Quentin Johnson and Trey Harris, who's a good run blocker, right? I mean, that's
come on. You can't forget about your boy though too. I can't believe you forgot about your boy.
True. He should have been your pick instead, Ty. I don't know what we're doing. Did you see Darren?
Maybe he's my next one.
Did you see Darren Waller this year? Unbelievable. He was. I mean,
Greg Dulcich, anybody?
Yeah. Ladd McConkey feels like a no-brainer to me, for sure.
I agree. I'm a big fan of Ladd McConkey. Go buy him while you absolutely still can. I'm going to stick in the wide receiver category. I couldn't believe when I opened Keep Trade Cut and I saw Jaylen Waddle was the 78th player overall over on Keep Trade Cut. That baffled me. I understand Jaylen Waddle's been in the league for 5 years, and it feels like every offseason he's a buy candidate in Dynasty formats. But what's different about this offseason, though, is that his price is at an all-time low going into the offseason because of all this change happening in Miami. You got no more Mike McDaniel. Okay, that definitely is a bummer. You got Tua Tagovailoa, who was benched, and Quinn Ewers was exactly what you expected him to be, which was subpar. But what we do know is that Tyreek Hill won't be playing in 2026 and likely beyond for the Miami Dolphins. And this team is set to invest in a quarterback, whether that is a bridge quarterback, if Hafley brings in Malik Willis in free agency to be a competent bridge quarterback for this team, or maybe they just decide, screw it, let's roll out Quinn Ewers, or screw it, let's see what we've got in Zach Wilson. And worst comes to worst, we enter the Arch Manning sweepstakes for the 2027 NFL draft. Either way, there is a competent quarterback coming towards this team, either in the immediate future or the somewhat immediate future, if you want to look to the 2027 NFL draft. This is just simply a bet on Jaylen Waddle's talent winning out here, right? Because even similar to Garrett Wilson at the start of the season, you could just plug your nose and you just pray that you could potentially get top 5 numbers through the first 5 weeks, like you got from Garrett Wilson. I'm not saying that's going to be the case. That is highly unlikely that is going to be the case, but this is a long-term bet on Jaylen Waddle, who's still only 27 years old, who is shown he can be a talented alpha in an NFL offense. He's getting paid like it. He's getting paid to play like a wide receiver 1 in an NFL offense.
Yeah, it really is, I think, just the discount of not knowing what's going on in the quarterback position.
Yep.
And I feel like every time we truly discount someone for that, it usually pays off when they're really talented. So I guess, you buy him with the assumption that, hey, it could go bad and be a down year, but he's a good enough player that it's not a down rest of his career kind of a thing, right? They're either going to move him or they're going to figure it out. I think, he's the clear wide receiver 1 in Miami this season. As long as he's healthy, he's going to be, a part of your roster moving forward, unless your team's absolutely ridiculous and you put your 6-man team in the comments that has, as your wide receiver 4, then yeah, I get it. Maybe not Jaylen Waddle, but for the rest of us, Jaylen Waddle is a good bet because you're not giving up much, right? That's what, like, you have it on here, mid-28 first. Yep, easy, done. Move on.
He's in the same tier as a late 2026 first, which I would do in a heartbeat.
Yeah, not even thinking about it. So for sure,
even a mid 2026 first, I would do. This draft class is just there's 5 top heavy players that I'm interested in. Everyone else, I'm like, I could give you a case, but I think I'd rather just have Jaylen Waddle.
Jordan Addison's wide receiver 28. I'd flip that in a heartbeat, right? Obviously, you probably have to give a little bit more with Jordan Addison, but yeah, these are no brainers to me.
Yeah, Ty, you sitting in the same boat here, or do you have more skepticism?
This one doesn't really make sense in my mind. Like, I get that Miami's offense might not be the finished product in 2026 with Bobby Slowick calling the plays and all that stuff, but can we just be honest? Almost any quarterback that has starter capabilities is going to be better than Tua for Jaylen Waddle. Just 4 quarterbacks that come to mind that Miami could look into at least acquiring, right? You brought up Malik Willis, right? There's the Green Bay connection with their front office now and Jeff Hafley. Jacoby Brissett. There's some intrigue there. Maybe they call up San Francisco and go, hey, what would you take for Mac Jones? Even if Mac Jones is the starter quarterback in Miami, I would feel a lot better with Mac Jones than Tua. So honestly, I feel like Jaylen Waddle, we're going to be talking about Jaylen Waddle pretty frequently, but there's one particular episode where I know he's going to come back up, and it's like the old veterans that you should actually still be buying in on Dynasty, because the dude is.
There's another one that I was thinking of.
So, we're going to be talking about Jaylen Waddle quite a bit, because yes, the ceiling may not be the same as it was right when Mike McDaniel had his first season in Miami, but there's still production to be had here as the number 1 guy in this Miami offense. Yeah, it would stink if it's Quinn Ewers that's rolled out again, but honestly, you would at least know, hey, 2027, it's not going to be as bad as it could be in 2026, because again, like you said, we're in the Arch Manning sweepstakes, or there's another quarterback that becomes available on the market, like a Lamar Jackson or somebody, because Baltimore doesn't really work out. I'm just saying. So yes, this feels like Cam said, this feels like it's a decrease in price because of the quarterback situation, but that honestly, the quarterback situation should be getting better, even if it's not the top of the league. If we're just going from bad to average, Jaylen Waddle is still a borderline, if not he's somewhere between wide receiver 16 and 20 year in and year out then.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog, where you can get into the game this season playing Pick'em. It's extremely simple. Just pick higher or lower on 2 or more of your favorite players. For example, I'll pick the higher on Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Xavier Worthy. If I played $10 and got all 3 of them right, I would win $60 just by watching football. And that's the beauty of Pick'em. You can track your picks and your wins while you enjoy the game. Now, if you're not on Underdog yet, scan the QR code on your screen or use our code FELLAS when you sign up, because new customers will get $50 in bonus bonus funds when you put your first $5 on the app. Plus, Underdog will give you a free pick to use in your first entry. Again, that's code FELLAS over on Underdog. Now let's get you back to the rest of the show. Fellas, let's climb down the rankings board a little bit more. We talked about some guys in the top 100 here. Now we're actually going to get to a few players that are either outside of the top 100 or at least right on the cusp of the top 100 players. Ricky Pearsall is 94th overall on Keep Trade Cut, Cameron. And you're saying bye, as in like bye, Ricky Pearsall, not NSYNC. Bye. Don't listen to me sing. I should never sing again. You can click off this episode now. Go ahead. Tell people to buy Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I mean, this is probably the most devastating news in the entire playoffs. George Kittle's out next season. Juwan Jennings, most likely gone from San Francisco. Contract up. Seems like it hasn't been a great relationship. And even if he is back, right, even if they do bring someone back with no George Kittle, Ricky Pearsall is going to have to step up. The question is going to be with Ricky, though, is he healthy? Can he stay healthy? Obviously, year one, we give him a little bit of a pass. He got shot. So, there's not a lot he can do on the field about that. This next year, though, hamstring injury kind of kept creeping up on him. But the thing that gets me is he played 5 games last year with 80+% of snaps. He had 4 games on the season with 80+ yards. Like when he's on the field, they use him and they use him down the field well. I mean, that's what Kyle Shanahan does, right? I mean, we've seen that over and over. We saw that with Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. I mean, obviously very talented wide receivers. Deebo Samuel, very talented wide receiver. But if you believe Ricky Pearsall is a pretty talented wide receiver as well, you look where he's going to Keep Trade Cut. He's going right next to Derrick Henry, DK Metcalf. I don't think Keep Trade Cut's quite updated yet. People aren't using it as much for Zach Charbonnet, who will probably have moved down after his ACL tear. But Jaden Higgins. So you look at all of that, and it's like, would you trade DK Metcalf for Ricky Pearsall to go 3 years younger for a guy with higher upside? Yeah, I absolutely would. So I just think he's gotten to a point where he still has a ton of upside in a very explosive offense that at this point, being outside the top 30 wide receivers, it's just like, you're really not giving up that much. An early 2027 second, yeah, I'll take that chance for sure.
This is definitely dependent on how risk adverse or risk willing you are willing to be as a dynasty manager. I am one where I'm not entirely sure if I'm comfortable investing in Ricky Pearsall. I can understand the upside that Ricky Pearsall brings me. I also understand that I could just be sinking an asset that doesn't end up being a proper return. I understand it. An early second, we can point to numerous early second round draft picks in Dynasty that have turned out to be just flops, right? You even look at some of the recent draft classes. I'm not calling Matthew Golden a flop already. Don't hear what I'm not saying, but if Matthew Golden doesn't turn it around, that's the kind of player you're looking at swapping here for Ricky Pearsall potentially. Ty, where are you at? I lean more the risk adverse side, where I understand the upside to swinging on Ricky Pearsall 100%. He was your guy coming out of the draft 2 seasons ago. Where do you stand on him?
I think it ultimately depends on your personal league, because if people see the upside for Ricky, right, like Cam said, there's no George Kittle, there could be no Juwan Jennings, so it might just be Christian McCaffrey, Ricky Pearsall, and then like Demarcus Robinson, like for the passing game here until George Kittle gets back. Like then the price might be a little too much, just because again you run the risk of the injuries and the inconsistency, because Ricky was the downfield guy and those just aren't super sticky game to game. But at the same time, if people for whatever reason are not in on San Francisco's offense, Ricky's kind of a nice little like wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 to maybe add to your team as kind of a depth piece, just to give you an option. Because again, that's the upside of, hey, he might actually, outside of Christian McCaffrey, might be the target leader on this team, because he has to be. There's no one else that can be. So I'm a big fan of the talent that is Ricky Pearsall. Lord, just please keep this man healthy, please. Because I think he has the talent and he has the ability to handle 110, 120 targets in a year because he can get open. He can, I mean, on all three levels of the field. It's not even just over the middle or the short parts of the field. It's downfield as well. So this one I will forever always hold a place for Ricky in my heart. So maybe I'm not the perfect one to, because my bias may come through. It did kind of sneak out there just a little bit, but I would at least send a feeler out for Ricky in your leagues and just be like, what are you asking for? Because if you're asking for a 27-second pick at some, early, mid, or late, that's a pretty easy one because we're still a year out. But anything close to the first round of a rookie draft or anything like that, that's a bit of a hard bargain for me.
I don't want to have to pay up to get Rick. I'm also just torn on. I would rather underpay. I mean, this most obvious statement of the year. I'd rather underpay than overpay to make sure I get him. Obviously, is the price tag is probably right now to make the investment. I am one where I would rather still try and get it at a discount though, just because I feel like I'm taking on more risk. I'm thinking there is more risk involved than other people might, and that's okay. Like I said, it all depends on how risk averse you're willing to be or not be for these players. This one too, Ty. Xavier Worthy is one of those players where he's 110 overall. You don't have Patrick Mahomes going into next season. To me, you're taking on a lot of risk here if you're willing to invest in Xavier Worthy. I understand we're playing the long game here. We're not just looking at the 2026 NFL season. But this is one I don't know, man. I'll be honest, I'm not sold that I need to go out and buy Xavier Worthy.
Can I just say neither am I in some weird way?
What? Why is he on your list then?
Because there is a payout. There is still substantial payout for this. Just knowing, because look, there's a theme between the Chargers and the Chiefs here. Okay. I'm getting into the argument. I'm getting there. Hey, just let a fella breathe. Let a fella breathe.
You got a while. You got a ways to go to convince me. My feet are up.
Okay. Back to what I was saying. I was backing on Lab because of the path of this offense could take with Mike McDaniel, right? I am more intrigued with Kansas City. Yes, I know Mahomes will get there. I'm more intrigued with the Chiefs now that we're bringing back Eric Bieniemy. Okay. Someone that is familiar with this offense. And I'll be honest, somebody that, again, understands the offense, but has more weapons at his disposal now because the last time he was offensive coordinator in Kansas City, I'm just going to read you off the pass catchers. Okay. Travis Kelce. This was back in 2022, by the way. Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Jerick McKinnon, Justin Watson, Noah Gray, Nicole Hardman, Sky Moore, and one Kadarius Toney. And yes, that is the order from top to bottom in receiving yards on the team in 2022. So now you have potentially one more season of Travis Kelce, but you have Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. I am willing to at least give more of a thought to the Chiefs potentially bouncing back. Yes, now this is where the Mahomes discussion comes in. How much can you really bounce back in 1 year without Patrick Mahomes? I don't think it's a whole lot. But when Mahomes comes back, that does give you even higher. That gives you even more upside. So 2025 didn't have no favors either, just like McConkey. 73 targets, not great for your sophomore year. He did battle injuries all year, just like most of the Chiefs players on this offense. He had 25 less targets than his rookie year, only one touchdown. That's kind of a big disclaimer that I think that's going to bounce back over the next year. So I look at the situation in Kansas City. You're getting a play caller who's familiar with this personnel. You're probably getting you're getting more and improved offensive line play. Jawan Taylor, okay, Mr. False Start. He's likely on the way out. There's an out in his contract, $27 million cap hit I was looking at with just $7 million in dead cap. So he's gone. Okay. This offensive line gives whoever the quarterback is, could be Jacoby Brissett, like we mentioned, Mac Jones, if Kansas City really thinks that they need to go that route. But all I'm saying is the pieces are starting to fall into place for Xavier Worthy. Yes, he may not be the target volume guy, but he can at least be the explosive guy that, hey, you need a flex play or just a rotation in your lineup. Worthy, I think you could do a lot worse, especially when you know that Mahomes is coming back and we could get some deep shots because of an improved offensive line and an improved play caller.
I'm just not convinced. I'm not convinced Kadarius Toney. Look at this. Look at what you've planted into my head. Kadarius Toney being Xavier Worthy. I'm not convinced that Xavier Worthy is going to end up being the player we want him to be. That's going to be connecting on enough deep balls with whoever the quarterback is this next season, even with Patrick Mahomes when he comes back. I'm just not convinced that Eric Bieniemy is the answer to all the problems. When I understand he has a say in offensive personnel, in offensive play calling, in the offensive scheme. But Andy Reid is the one calling the shots at the end of the day. He's the one constant that's there to throw a counterpunch to that. And if it hasn't happened in the first 2 seasons, I understand Travis Kelce is on the way out. But man, we're looking at Rashee Rice playing the Travis Kelce role. If we're really going to pair a wide receiver to take over from Travis Kelce, I think it's just going to benefit Rashee Rice more than it does Xavier Worthy in the long run as well. It has been a long day. We are recording this late at night. Cameron, you have any interest in Xavier Worthy? Where are you at? I'm not 100% sold that like Xavier Worthy is a player that I want to go out and this is like the right window to invest in him.
So he's barely 23. Mahomes, I think, probably misses the first couple weeks. They're going to rush Mahomes back because Mahomes, they don't want to lose a Mahomes season. They think they can win no matter what. I think, Mac Jones, I don't think is out of the question. I think no matter what, they're rushing or they're bringing a quarterback in that they think is competent. So I don't think it's a lost season because I got to assume at this point, the Chiefs say, if we get 8 weeks of Patrick Mahomes, we think we can make the Super Bowl. Like that's what the belief they have in him moving forward. So I don't know. I get it. It really is a dart throw. If I'm trading a mid-second for Xavier Worthy, I mean, what's the difference between a dart throw for him and a dart throw for, name the wide receiver in a top-heavy class that you're going to get there. So that's where I'm coming from on that. I mean, the question is, do they take another wide receiver in this draft, or do they bring in another decent pass catcher in the passing game? If he's the wide receiver 2 in Kansas City once again, I'm okay taking that shot of maybe we do see a year 3 breakout. I'm not ready to give up on Xavier Worthy. I think that he does have a lot of talent. I think the odds are more likely than not it doesn't pan out. But for a mid-round second where you're kind of just taking that shot anyways on another player, that's the thoughts that are going through my head. If I get him for a mid-round second, 26 or 27, I'm feeling pretty good about taking that. But I see it more as a dart throw, whereas I see when I'm trading for Ricky Pearsall as an early second in either draft for me, I feel like that's more of a sure thing. But I understand that not a lot of people see it. A lot of people see it kind of like you do, Lucas, of both feel kind of like a dart throw to me.
So this epitomizes my feelings of Xavier Worthy. Would you rather have Xavier Worthy or Quentin Johnston on your Dynasty team?
Worthy.
Because over on Keep Trade Cut, they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players apart.
I'd have Worthy.
Do you feel great about that though? No Keenan Allen, Mike McDaniel coming in. But QJ is the guy who's caught in an absolute absurd amount of touchdowns this year.
Yeah, do we really think that's going to happen though with a new play caller? That he's going to see him the same way though?
I don't want to make that argument though, because how many times do we do that? I am not comparing QJ to Mike Evans, but how many times do we do that with Mike Evans?
Well,
I'm not saying just because Mike McDaniel comes in, things aren't going to change. I am just saying who else are you going to point to in the passing offense in the red zone and say you're going to catch a touchdown?
You're going to look at Amari Hampton.
I can't catch a touchdown. I said catch a touchdown for that reason. I know you're going to run the football. I was waiting for that to drop. I figured one of you would hit that.
Yes, sir.
I think
My
maybe
feelings
it's also,
are they're like, not that they're not separable, but like I'm not excited to invest in either of those players.
but here's the thing. No one said that you had to be excited. Right? Like
If other people want to be excited about it, they can feel free. I'm just giving my 2 cents of like,
You just have to do it. You don't have to be excited. Just do it.
right.
Like going to work.
All that I'm saying is that, again, there's an opportunity now that didn't feel like it was going to happen with Matt Nagy, with the way that the Chiefs were currently running their offense, with just this dink and dump kind of offense. Maybe we start to take some more shots because we've got a guy that's familiar with Kansas City now back in the building.
we'll put a pin in it there. I'm curious to hear what the comments end up saying about Xavier Worthy, because clearly we're not totally in alignment on that one. It's the joy of this show, though, is that we're not going to be in alignment on every single thing. So especially this last player, I'm curious to see if you two feel about Bhayshul Tuten the way I feel about Xavier Worthy. The thing you have going for you here, the thing you have going for you here with Bhayshul Tuten, though, is that he didn't have all that prominent of a rookie season, right? We only got a 1 season sample size. He played behind Travis Etienne, but the advanced metrics thought Bhayshul Tuten was awesome this year. Among 55 running backs with 80 plus attempts per fantasy points data, Tuten ranked 5th in rushing success rate this year. He was 11th in missed tackles forced per attempt. Over on PFF, he was 14th in their elusiveness rating. He was also 17th in yards after contact per attempt. I'll make a note. Those are all higher metrics than Travis Etienne. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Liam Cohen and his coaching staff are knee-deep in the spreadsheets, right? Convincing themselves to not re-sign Travis Etienne simply because of Bhayshul Tuten's advanced metrics. But I am also not convinced the Jaguars want to slap a $14 million franchise tag on Travis Etienne that would make him the 4th highest paid running back in terms of annual salary in 2026. I think this is probably your last window to scoop Tuten at his lowest price point, because we did see after the Jaguars week 8 bye, his workload did slightly increase. I wouldn't be surprised if they continue ramping that up a little bit more if they do decide to bring Travis Etienne back into the 2026 season as well. I think there's just a very delicate window here before you hit mid-February to like 2 weeks before the free agency window hits, where people just aren't going to be in tune with the potential unlikeliness that the Jaguars actually bring back Travis Etienne this year.
I will say, as a Travis Etienne manager, I did have a point during the season where I was concerned that Bhayshul Tuten was going to take over for Travis Etienne. So I understand that there is a little bit of promise there. He had that game against the Chargers where he had 15 carries, 74 yards, and a touchdown. So made me a little worried. The fact that he had 7 total touchdowns this year is pretty good. I think at the very least, he's going to perform at running back 30, right? I think you are getting him at your floor. I will take that argument. I'm not going to trade for him with the thought that all of a sudden, hey, he's going to be this
to take over
top 12 guy. Because
yeah, right.
I think even if Etienne leaves, they're more likely than not to have him splitting the backfield.
Yep.
But for a guy like Tuten, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't know. I'm not. This is another one. I'm not overly excited, but hey, if I got this year's Jaylen Warren out of him, even this year's Kenny Gainwell out of him, I'm not upset by that. Both top 20 guys, and I think he could easily be that kind of guy in the Liam Cohen system. So even though I would disagree at first, seeing where he really is going on keep trade cut right now, I'm definitely not against going out and throwing a flyer for him.
Ty, you and I were probably the most critical of Bhayshul Tuten coming into the NFL this year. Anything about his rookie season change your mind in terms of an asset worth having on your dynasty teams? I'm kind of in the boat of, I'll play the ambiguity here. I'll attack it, especially for the price tag that you can get him at.
This one feels like, to me, another Tyler Algier of sorts, where
interesting. 2 very different names in terms of, you could get Jaylen Warren or you could get Tyler Algier.
stylistically, yes, very different. But I don't see a path for Bhayshul Tuten, just knowing the options that Jacksonville has this offseason for running back. You could bring back ETN. You're really going to take away work from ETN and give it to Tuten. I don't really think that seems logical. Maybe you let ETN walk and bring in a different running back in free agency. Like, I mean, let's just run through this. If you bring in Breece Hall, I don't really think Tuten gets on the field a whole lot. It becomes another Tyler Algier situation where, yes, he gets like 6, 7 carries a game, something like that, but that's really about it. Ken Walker, let's say Ken Walker becomes a Jacksonville Jaguar. Not really sure it's Tuten gets on the field more than what he was getting on the field with ETN. Javonte Williams, even? To me, I don't really see a path for Tuten to get enough work that's more than what he was getting last year to kind of give you back the value of a top 30 running back, maybe top 25 even, right? So to me, he's just going to be stuck in purgatory of this kind of handcuff running back territory. And we're going to be constantly going, well, he's 23 years old. He's only in year 2, year 3. Maybe this is the year. Maybe it's just because I'm not the biggest Bhayshul Tuten guy, but I didn't really see a whole lot this year that he was doing substantially better that earned him more work into the future. Maybe training camp is a different story, offseason training, all that stuff. Maybe it's a different story, and we have this conversation 6 months from now, right before training camp, and it's a completely different story. But I think right now, I don't think Tuten exactly did enough to get on the field more to make him worthwhile, or to make a worthwhile investment in the guy that he can rack up. I mean, the 7 touchdowns is quite the number for 93 touches. That's quite a bit.
The one counterpunch I'll throw to, if they move on from ETN, they could bring in Ken Walker. They could bring in, name a free agent running back this year, is that I feel like it's less of a dream to think, hey, the Jaguars could move on from Travis Etienne, compared to, hey, Kenneth Walker could be a Jacksonville Jaguar, if that makes sense. Because all it takes is Travis Etienne leaving one team. What it would take for Kenneth Walker to get to Jacksonville, again, I'm just using Kenneth Walker as an example, is he first has to leave Seattle. We have to get that out of the way first. Then Kenneth Walker has to get past the probably dozen suitors. And I'm saying dozen because there are probably 12 teams that could use Kenneth Walker. The 12 teams that will also be after his services. Could Jacksonville be the team he lands on? Sure, absolutely. There's more hoops to jump through for that to happen, rather than if the Jaguars just get rid of Travis Etienne. I do think Javonte Williams would be a likely candidate to potentially come in, but I don't even know if Javonte Williams would keep Tuten off the field at the rate that Travis Etienne did, right? I think we would see more Bhayshul Tuten in that case, which could lead him to be a Zach Charbonnet of sorts, right? If we want to keep throwing out, 1Bs in offense. So I guess I'm looking at it from the perspective of all it takes is Travis Etienne leaving for a very, very increased likelihood of Bhayshul Tuten playing more of a 1 role in this offense, whether it's A or B TBD, but to jump the hoops of this player doesn't re-sign with their team and then has to go through the 12 different teams that want them and then ends up in Jackson. It's just a longer process. And I think that's less predictable than Travis Etienne might not be there. Take advantage of that while the window is still there. That's just how I'm viewing it.
He could be Tyjae Spears.
What other backup running backs do we want to toss out? I don't look.
Emmanuel,
you say Tyjae Spears, and I'm like, that's actually probably more realistic than I care to admit.
Jeremy McNichols.
Did someone say Ja'Cory Krusky Merritt?
Audric Estime.
Okay, now we're he's not even
Raheem Mostert.
How many injuries did it take on the Saints to get Audric Estime on the field this year?
Oh,
Alvin Kamara,
everyone.
Devin Neal,
Will Shipley,
Kendre Miller before Devin Neal. Then Audric Estime is splitting with Evan Hull.
Gross.
Yeah.
Gross.
So that was incredibly disrespectful. You take that back.
All right. I'm sorry.
What if he was Brian Robinson-esque, Brian Robinson I mean,
This
to
is so
CMC.
pointless.
So
What if he's Roshan Johnson?
What? Hey, what if he is? What if he is?
What if he is?
What if he's Roshan Johnson?
Then he'd have 2 carries for 17 yards this season.
That's just mathematically how it works. If he's Roshan Johnson, he only gets this many carries. Oh man, we'll put a pin in it there. We'll be back later this week. We did buys today. We're going to break down some sells later this week as well. So make sure you tune in for that. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell as well, so you know when all of our newest content is up. If you want to follow our other socials as well, exclusive content over there. FF Fellas over on Twitter, the FF Fellas over on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook and TikTok. If you're on YouTube through and through, we salute you. We respect you. We got a page for you, Fantasy Football Fellas Shorts over there. Follow our personal socials as well. I'm at Lucas Wenzel on X, Camlaw FFF for Cameron, Tyler _Plath for Ty. Like I said, we'll be back later this week. Sells. And if you notice, this came out on Wednesday this week. I probably should have mentioned this earlier in the episode. I'm off my game. I'm a little bit rusty. I was out last week, but Wednesdays and Fridays moving forward, we'll be posting content for you all. At least the podcast will go up on Wednesdays and Fridays this offseason. Just with adjusting schedules on our end, we decided to just move everything back a day to give us a little bit more time on the front end of the week to make sure content is ready to go for you all. So Wednesdays and Fridays for the foreseeable future. I'm guessing once we hit the dog days of summer, talking like June, July, August will ramp back up to 3 episodes a week, but June, July, we'll probably get back to more of the regular Tuesday, Thursday posting schedule. But for now, we are Wednesdays and Fridays. For now. There was a different word I wanted to use, but that's okay. My mind is moving 2 miles an hour right now, so I'm just going to sign off instead. Thanks so much, y'all. We'll see you later this week. Deuces.
Deuces.
Deuces.